I think it's so funny, Anita, you and I were talking earlier, you know, so when it goes against the dominant cultural perspective, the smallest thing will stand out, will get all the attention, but you have kind of the opposite problem at times where, like in your videos, like you'll be very explicit about, you know, this is an issue that affects men too, you know, and talk about all sorts of things, and yet viewers seem to just completely miss that aspect of your videos and, you know, react like, what about, you know, what about the men, or what about you?
What about the men? So, sorry. So we were just talking about this. How, okay, and when I go to make a video or to write the script, me and my co-writer spend an enormous amount of time going, okay, what are all of the counter arguments, right? What are all the things that people are going to come at me with? Like, I'm surprised that we haven't started making bingo cards to hand out with the videos. So we incorporate all of that, and it takes an enormous amount of time and effort to make it seem seamless and like a part of the story that we're trying to tell and a part of the criticism. And so it's amazing to me how, like, in the last video where we talked about women as background decoration and how women are often abused as texture, right, to make an environment seem gritty and real, that I literally say, you could do this to male NPCs too, but here's how it's different. And all of the criticisms immediately were like, but you can do it to men too. And I'm like, I know, I said that. Right, and so it's interesting in how, like, what's happened around me is I am not a human being. I am that evil feminazi that wants to take all games away, that doesn't play games, that doesn't know anything about anything, and that is like a con artist trying to lie to everybody, right? Like, there's all of these conspiracy theories. And so what's happening is that these people are, like, they don't care what I actually say, right? They're not listening to the words that I'm presenting that are carefully crafted specifically for a very broad audience. They just go, what can we attack her with? No matter what I do or say, right? So sometimes I feel this like double-edged sword because I'm very careful about what I say, right? I'm very careful about, I spent hours trying to compose a tweet. Like, this is the level of like sort of, scrutiny and pressure that we feel under making these videos and being a presence as Feminist Frequency online. But sometimes I'm like, well, it doesn't matter, because no matter what I say, they're going to come after me, right? And so it's different in that, like, I don't think, I'm sure this happens, but people aren't like necessarily trying to find everything you say that's possibly the worst ever. But when you do say it, they're just like, how dare you?
Yeah.
Right? With me, it's just like, you said words. How dare you?
Yeah, like with some of the conspiracy stuff directed at you, Anita, it's like some chemtrails level bullshit.
Like, I'm surprised in the videos they're not wearing like tinfoil hats and shit. It's like, so, sorry, I just have to share one example. So one example of, and this could segue into harassment stuff, but one example is that I caused my own abuse. So, like, the level of victim blaming, right, is just remarkable. Like, there are hundreds of videos made with this narrative of me and my feminist army posted on 4chan to get the abuse, to get the attention, to get the money, to make the videos and to be famous, right? Like, that, like, I would ever do that to myself or wish that upon anyone. Like, there are a core group of people who are harassing me, and they make videos. And when I say videos, we're talking, like, hundreds of videos, right? Like hours and hours of just ranting into a camp. That's probably why they wonder why it takes so long for me to make a video, because it takes them 1 hour to make a 1 hour video. So they'll do these like long rants trying to find anything that they can possibly find to criticize me with and just to see what sticks, right? And the problem, well, there's many problems with that, but one of the problems is that what they say gets parroted. Right, so a video will come out, and then I will get hundreds of messages with the exact same thing that person said, right? So right now, we could check my Twitter feed, and I bet you it will tell me that I'm lying about Hitman Absolution. Because someone made a video 2 days ago about how I'm lying about this game, and now that's all I hear, right? That's all I see, all the emails I get. And that's just one example. This happens on a weekly basis. So when you talk about, like, distinguishing legitimate and sexist criticism, you have to take into account the entire sphere of like what's orbiting around me. I think that there are definitely legitimate criticisms, and I listen to them and I try to acknowledge them and incorporate them where I can, but there's so much sexist shit.
Very difficult to be a critic in general, and I argue that, I mean, well, first of all, how many of us remember the hoopla around Mass Effect 3's ending? How many of us remember all the hoopla about all of Dragon Age 2? Okay, it manifests in that too, because all the outrage over that, the absolute hyperbolic anguish that was probably worse than a Reaper invasion ultimately, it grew out of not just an artistic criticism, because certainly one could see a lot of the people that attack Anita, for instance, that's practically all they do. It's really scary. They devote the better part of their creative energies in their lives just to creating stuff to attack her. And imagine what has been robbed from the world with the loss of all of that creative energy, ultimately. You know, and so thinking about that and thinking that, you know, we can ultimately save everybody, including people, save people from themselves, that also keeps me going, that's the legitimacy of my work and understanding and researching why.
We do these things or suggest these ideas that will make their spaces more inclusive.
Well, Anita, really, if you want games to change, you should just go and make your own game. Just be done with it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
By one game. We'll change the whole industry. So in the same sort of line of thought, one of the questions that came up was asking, how does the "you aren't a real gamer" criticism affect me? And I think that goes to everyone. I think it's bullshit, so it doesn't affect me. Like, it's a tactic used to lob, it's like lobbed at people to discredit them, but it's such garbage. Like, anyone who believes that is dumb. So we have 5 minutes left, I think.
15.
Oh, 15?